song that we're bumping in with, Three Dog Nights doing Liar. And I love that song because it goes right to the truth of the matter. I remember when it came on the radio, and it plays in my head so many times when I see things that are happening that aren't on the up and up. And there's a lot of things that haven't been up and up in the political situation and the economic situation in Connecticut. And when that happens, I go to my good buddy Bob Swick. Bob is a college professor and economist and a dedicated student of what is happening in this environment and state of ours. And Bob, how are you? How is everyone?
I'm very good, Tony. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
Bob, it's my pleasure. And my biggest fascination of what's taken place in this past month is what's gone on in Bridgeport. And I'll tell you, for the most famous resident of Bridgeport, who was Barnum, saying there was a sucker born every minute, and for a guy born many years ago, but not that far back, named D'Angelo out of Stanford, saying Barnum was right. This is all coming to seed. What is this with Ganem?
Well, I think it's a variety of factors. I think number one, the biggest factor is Mayor Finch really did a poor job in Bridgeport in the time that he was there. I think he alienated a lot of the political machine in Bridgeport. And I think for Ganem, it was just the conceptual move for him to go back into politics. He really has no ability to earn a living. People felt sorry for him, and realistically, he promised that he would make Bridgeport great again. And I think that was a hard sell for a lot of voters there. Why, I don't know, because he basically raped and pillaged the city for millions of dollars while he was mayor before. But, the spin on the whole election is, he's reformed, he's paid his dues, it's time to give him another chance again. Bridgeport wasn't so bad with him as mayor. And, Bridgeport will be great again with Joe Ganem. And I just can't, for the life of me, I was just shocked when I saw it. I was shocked when I heard the news. I'm still shocked by the whole situation. And I really believe strongly, Tony, the state of Connecticut needs a law that if you are a convicted felon, you could not hold public office on a local level, on a state level, or on a national level. And I think Ganem, no matter what he does in the next 2 years in Bridgeport, it's going to be anybody's guess, number one. But number two, what happens, let's throw out the worst case scenario. What happens if he goes back to his old ways? What happens if he pillages the city again? What happens if he gets caught? What's going to happen then? And I think that's really the realistic question that people have to really be looking at in Bridgeport, especially for the 11,000 people in that community who voted for him. I mean, I'm just shocked. I am truly shocked that that whole situation occurred there.
Now, you have a figure there, 11,000 people. When I think of Bridgeport, I think of Bridgeport by population being a much bigger city than that. And it seems like to me, in my little chicken scratch math in my head, that we don't have a lot of people voting in Bridgeport.
No, I think it actually was probably around 17 or 18% from what I read. And it was really a very, very small amount of people who actually went out and voted. I think a lot of people are just so disgusted in the town, they just said, what's the difference? I'm not going to vote for anybody. The Republican candidate there really didn't do well. The guy by the last name of Torres was a council person in Bridgeport. As much as he got support from the state Republican Party, he really wasn't able to present a strong enough platform to get enough people to vote there for him. There was also a petitioning candidate who I believe works or is affiliated with the University of Bridgeport.
Yes.
And she actually showed a pretty strong plurality there as far as votes are concerned. But obviously, it was no way near enough to make a dent in the election. Mary Jane Foster was a petitioning candidate. Got 6,029 votes. I'm looking it up now. And then Rick Torres, who was a Republican, didn't even get 2,900 votes. He got 2838, and Gammon got 11,198 votes. So yeah, about 20% of voting voters who went out to the polls and actually voted in the election. So it was a pretty poor turnout. It worked to the benefit of Gammon, and it also worked to the benefit of the Democratic machine there, which basically, once he got the nomination for the Democrat position over Finch, and Finch did not have his papers lined up to petition to run for re-election as a petitioning candidate, it gave the election, in my opinion, to Gammon overall. And again, I point out what's going to happen if he goes back to his old ways, as much as he may be reformed. You know, it's going to be really a pathetic state of affairs for the taxpayers of Bridgeport. I also point out, people don't realize how many millions of dollars it costs the state, the feds, and the city to prosecute Gammon during that time frame. He cost the city a ton of money when he was mayor. Besides the fraud he committed, the actual prosecution costs were just incredible also. So it's really an amazing story. I mean, I'm just dumbfounded by it, to say the least. I'm sure many people here in Connecticut.
You know, and how could I put it? Memory often is a fleeting thing, and I have mine's pretty good. There's days I'm shocked at what I can't remember. Can you give us kind of a capsule summary to those of us who might be scratching our heads saying, what did Joe Ganim do? Tell us what Joe Ganim did.
Well, basically, he was convicted, I believe, of 7 or 8 different counts of actual fraud with the city. He had a lot of different time contracts in which he was paid off by city contractors. He also basically was given a lot of gifts by city contractors and individuals in the city. He basically stole from he was indicted on 16 felony counts of racketeering, bribery, conspiracy. There was mail fraud charges, tax evasion charges. He took almost $500,000 in cash. He had expensive wine that was given to him, tailored clothing, diamonds, and the biggest thing was he had a bunch of home renovations in a very sophisticated kickback scheme that ended up leading to the convictions of 10 of his associates in his administration. But the one thing that always stood out in my mind was there was a article right at the time he was getting convicted where he was bottoming out his BMW because they had so many cases of expensive wine in the car. He was scraping the bottom of the car, and him and his buddies were just laughing about it as they were driving around getting all this free wine. And basically, he made Bridgeport in 2003, when all the convictions started, was his personal bank account. He just did whatever he wanted, and that was it. But to me, the strongest counts were the racketeering and the bribery counts. And that's what the feds were able to get him on. And eventually spent 7 years in federal prison, and then he was released, I believe, to a halfway house in Hartford after the 7-year conviction. So it's just ridiculous, to say the least. And the guy's mayor of Bridgeport.
Now, I understand that one of the investigators, one of the federal investigators who was actually prosecuting him, somehow ended up as a watchdog on his campaign?
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he did basically come back and it did help him with the campaign. And it's interesting because the hodgepodge of Democrats in Bridgeport who basically were all feuding with one another against Finch and against Gammon, now all of a sudden they're harmonious with each other, and they're going to work to make sure Gammon doesn't create any more problems for the city, but at the same time hopefully move forward his administration, which to me it's just comical. I mean, Joe Gammon basically stole from the public for the years he was mayor. And it was really ridiculous, that it's just ridiculous, utterly ridiculous.
And this pattern of fraud with Joe Ganim over this 12 years, was this something that was consistent through his tenure, or did he kind of get in this thing where he might have traveled the straight and narrow for a while and then all of a sudden kind of wondered, hey, what about me, and started...
I think it was basically concentrated in the last 7 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it was basically his first half of his tenure as mayor was basically nondescript. There wasn't really that much going on. But I guess once he started getting offered the bribes, it became very difficult for him to turn it down. And then he started accepting the gifts, and basically the gifts were the way that the city contractors were able to get the work in Bridgeport, and they basically just poured it onto him nonstop. And he just couldn't stop. I mean, it was just like a kid in a candy store, basically, accepting every time. And that time where he was driving around with the wine that was scraping the bottom of the car, I'll never forget reading that article, and I'll never forget saying to myself, that's just, just a sickening excess of a public official at the public trial living off taxpayers like that. It's just utterly ridiculous.
It's beyond belief, but
I could digest it a little better if he came out and says, I'm going to get reelected. If I become mayor again, I'm not going to take a penny in pay. I'm going to try to pay back the city as much as I can for what it cost. But you know what? That's never going to happen. He's eligible for his pension again. He's going to get his normal salary again, and everything is great. It's just mind-boggling. I'm speechless with him with regards to this election. It's just amazing to me.
Well, and the pension point you make is pretty compelling in a very sad way.
Most definitely. I mean, and again, to parallel John Rowland with his convictions, and I still believe he is eligible for his state pension. I don't think there's really any laws on the book that prevent them.
That's what I've read.
So, and that was something in believe it or not, the last gubernatorial election, the Republican candidate didn't mention it, and it was basically ignored completely by the media because I'm sure they never really would think that Gammon would make a comeback, and conversely, John Rowland could make a comeback too. Gammon has paved the way. There's no reason why Rowland, once he clears up his name on this latest county that he's involved in, but he can run for mayor of Waterbury or something, and whatever, get elected, and that's it. I'll make his comeback. So it's an amazing situation to view at the expense of taxpayers in the state of Connecticut, as usual.
I'm speechless, but I still got to work for 45 minutes, so I can't be. Speaking of speechless, and that's quite a tale in Bridgeport. It's just so unbelievable. What is this budget debate? I get up in the morning and the friendly, smiling commercial news services are telling me that it's kumbaya in Hartford and they're trying to work it out and things are great, and I don't know. I don't see much changing. You tell us.
Well, basically what's happening from what I'm hearing and what I'm reading is that the state Republicans of the Senate and the House have formulated 3 different plans to try to help balance the budget in the long term. And they are getting some support from what I call the few moderate Democrats that still exist in the state House and the state Senate. I think the Democratic Party in the state of Connecticut right now really fears 2016 for 2 reasons. Number one, in the last gubernatorial campaign, they basically lied through their teeth saying there was no budget deficit, everything was great, everything was wonderful. Malloy squeezes back into re-election. And now, roughly 2 years later, we are in one of the most severest economic crises in the state history, with a budget deficit that you can't even really pin down one way or the other because you can't get any agreement as to how much it is. 200 million, 300 million. We're looking at in 2017 approximately $1.5 billion worth of a budget deficit. And I will also throw out, and I have talked to several individuals in the Republican Party, you have over $80 billion worth of long-term unfunded liabilities. basically pension obligations, long-term benefit obligations, and long-term borrowing debt.
Okay, and I just want to stick a pin there. 80 billion? 80 billion?
I feel it's 80 billion. They're basically saying 60 billion because they don't count certain types of bonds. I'm counting everything, the entire debt of the state, on a state level. Now, again, I could be wrong, but again, the way I'm trying to interpret it, you have all these long-term unfunded pension liabilities. You have all these long-term unfunded pension benefit liabilities. You have all this borrowing of money that has continued for the past basically 8 years nonstop. And you also have a lot of stuff that's been taken, programs taken off budget to try to fall into this theoretical constitutional spending cap, which Attorney General George Jepsen, who I may add was a former Connecticut party chairman of the Democratic Party, now has ruled it being illegal. So where's all that money being counted? Where's all that money being funded from? That's basically being thrown out in the distance. So it's another issue there, and that's why I'm coming up with the $80 billion worst-case scenario. And again, a lot of elected officials are saying it's only $50 to $60 billion. I think that's underestimating it.
Only.
By far and wide.
Now, I'm going to be very stupid here, which is very easy for me to do. Does the state not have something called a balanced budget amendment? You know,
well, the budget amendment for the constitutional spending cap was voted in by voters. Apparently, when Dick Blumenthal was the Attorney General, he basically said the State House and the State Senate has to vote it into X amount to be effective. So in other words, I guess they come up with some sort of actual figure for the spending cap. This is what we have to abide by. And we, according to the amendment, as far as the way I'm interpreting it, state spending could only increase 3% under this constitutional cap. Well, the 3% has been ignored year in and year out, basically. It's been more like 6 to 8%. And the way the state Democrats have gotten around it is that they continue to move money off budget. So they theoretically say, okay, we're under the spending cap. What Attorney General Jepsen is saying now, the House and the Senate never acted upon it, so therefore it's not in existence. There is no constitutional spending cap. State Senator Len Fasano, who is the ranking Senate minority leader, has basically said, okay, but we're going to go to the special session, and we want to vote up and down on this constitutional spending cap. Either we make it effective or we don't make it effective. Simple. But my point of contention is it was a constitutional amendment that was voted in by voters. How can it be deemed invalid now, all these years later? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And if one remembers, the constitutional spending cap was voted in at the time of, guess what? The state income tax implementation back in 1992-93. Mm-hmm. So, it's just amazing to me that we could have, in theory, the spending cap. All of a sudden now, this part of the state constitution is no longer valid. It's just again, an unbelievable situation for taxpayers in the state of Connecticut.
Now,
still did not have any kind of plan to address the budget deficit or the long-term unfunded liabilities of the state.
Now, these discussions that are going on, you had mentioned earlier in the discussion there are 3 possible, shall we say, approaches or concepts to this.
Yeah, the first one, from what I'm hearing, is number 1. There's going to be some sort of early retirement plan being offered to state employees. Those employees who are very, very well into their service, to give them the initiative to retire early. They will add 1, 2, or 3 years to their age. They will come up with their magic number of 60. They will then be eligible for retirement. What this would do is eliminate more high-paid state employees to be hired in by state employees. New state employees are making less money. But the second part of the program, which is the key, they will not get the pension benefits that these now retiring state employees would be receiving. They would be in a much more structured, self-funded pension program that they would have to participate in and have to contribute to. That, in the long term, would be the third part of the program, in which it would lower dramatically the state's long-term pension liabilities and benefit liabilities in the future. So that's basically the Republican plan of what they want to develop. Today, I got bits and pieces of the Democratic plan, in which, again, they're calling for new taxes. Martin Mooney's from the State House is basically calling for a mansion tax, that individuals who have property that is worth more than $2 million would have to pay an additional tax on their property tax, which would go to the state. And a couple other basically very, very serious high-level types of taxes on those individuals with high income and or who are more wealthy than those Democrats who vote against it, put it that way. So that's one plan there. They are still talking about some minor cuts, in my opinion, here and there through the state to try to save money. The state is just a massive bureaucracy, Tony, as we know it. I mean, there's so much dead wood up there in Hartford. It's not even funny. The political appointments cannot continue to go on anymore. Connecticut is broke. We're bankrupt. I mean, that's in essence what's going on.
Well,
you and I ever ran a business like this, we'd be out on the street with our clothes on our back, and that's the reality of it.
You know, occasionally I will I'll take a day. You know, Willie Mays does not get from first to third as quickly as he once did, so it's down to like a day a month, and I'll go down to Fairfield County or maybe around near New Haven and talk to the folks whom we've had the pleasure of serving at FFC Paragon for many years, and ask how they're doing, and, you know, have a little eye contact and a little handshake, in some cases a little hug. And I had a trip last Tuesday. Every single person, Bob, that I spoke to, it's like, and this was Stamford, Norwalk, Greenwich. When can I get out of here? How quickly can I get out of here? Or I will get out of here when? And it's like, I've never heard this before from them, to a point where I'm like, hey, you know, well, what is it? And they're all saying it's the taxes. One of those people, you know, who you just mentioned, the mansion tax. And she was like, if they do that, you know, bye-bye. It's not worth putting up with what I have to put up with here and pay that and get what I get, which isn't anything. So, you know.
Exactly. And we're one of the few states in the country that tax pensions on top of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's so many disincentives to retire in Connecticut that our elected officials, more importantly, the Democratic-controlled House and Senate, don't realize that they continue to drive more and more people out of state. They're driving our best and brightest, the high school graduates, the college graduates, out of state. They're not coming back here. And they're driving a lot of the higher income workers, who are the backbone of the state, out of the state. And it's sad because, you know, people like myself, who have lived in Connecticut for 57 years, all my life,
yeah,
I really got to consider, and you have to consider too, do you really want to stay here when you're in your 70s and battle this kind of tax structure and have the same very poor managed government for the rest of your life? I mean, what's the point of it? It makes no sense after a while.
Well, you know,
and I think everything is coming to a big head right now in Hartford, because I really believe the Democrats realize their backs are against the wall. They've run this for how many years? They've controlled the House and the Senate for how many years?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about Rowland being governor. I'm not talking about Rowland being governor. They're basically figuratives more than anything else. The State House and the State Senate basically develop the budget. They vote on it. They vote on these tax increases and the like. And you know what? The State Democratic Party, Connecticut Democratic Party, owns the fiscal crisis we're in today. And unfortunately now, the Republicans have to come up with plans, and they have to be listened to. It wasn't a good idea to have a $40 billion two-year budget be sequestered, meaning that it was not allowed to go under any type of debate and be voted in at the last minute, and be told, have taxpayers be told, oh, this budget is balanced, you don't have to worry about anything. After $4 billion worth of tax increases, all Democratic state tax increases, and look at the net result, Tony. Over $1 billion in deficits.
Bob,
$8 billion in long-term debt. It's incredible.
It is incredible, and more to come. Believe it or not, we're out of time. So happy to have you. Where and when can our fans reach you, and how do they do that?
You can check out my blog spot, www.swickblogspot.com, and I'm available there. You can just email me through there. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Bob, thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll keep talking about this, and we'll have you back real soon.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, too.
And same here. Bye-bye now. And that was Professor Bob Swick. And we will be joined very soon by the lovely and legendary Miss Kathy Garver. So sit tight. Round and third on the way home. Big night under the full moon. Tony D'Angelo here on Coast to Coast.